Hello everyone, we are live yet again. This is going to be one of my authors chats of the week, and as I wait to let everybody get notified that I'm out and about, I'll keep my eye out for my co-host, and as always we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. And the big thing for me today is I launched and released an audiobook. And also, it's the last few hours of my current campaign for my Greek myth retelling Fleet Legend of Atalanta. So, lots been going on today. I have been very busy. And as I said, I'm going to keep an eye out for my co-host, and we'll get things going in just a moment, hopefully. Excuse me. Long week. One of the other things I've been doing is prepping for my next convention. That will be Dragon Con, coming up in a few weeks. So I've been kind of prepping. I have a whole new setup for the tables, and we'll go from there. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I can hear you. I cannot see you. There's a way for you to turn on your camera.
Working on it.
There you go. Welcome.
Hey, how are you doing? All right?
I am, yes. I was just mentioning that today was a busy day. I've had an audiobook release. Sorry, I just dropped my notepad. And it's my last few hours for the campaign for my special edition for my Greek myth retelling. So, lots been going on. Yes. But how are you?
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I'm doing great. Also a busy day. Mine didn't involve books. It involved work, but it was definitely fun. But did I hear, I was logging on, you're going to Dragon Con?
Yes, in a few weeks.
There are so many of those that I get so jealous of. That's one of them. That one's one of them. Then there's the one, what is it, Dragon Steel in December?
Yeah, then Dragon Steel Nexus over on the other side of the States.
Yeah, I know. All of our friends over on the west side are like, come see us. And I'm like, I'm in Florida.
That's a bit of, I was going to say, Dragon is like in your backyard, so to speak. But yeah, the other one's a little bit of hike. And it's on my radar as well. But I would have to figure out how to, because I've never had to ship books or anything. So if I was there, to sell books and stuff like that, I would need to know how to set up and move and transport all the setup. And that itself sounds overwhelming. So
it's so intimidating. I see people do it. I've got a buddy, he's a fellow indie author on here, Jared Woodcox. He does a lot of cons. He does it, and he has friends in cities, and he ships books to them. That's how he does it. He just ships books to these friends. He's offered to let me ship books, and even that feels, I don't know, that feels like a lot.
It's a little daunting. Plus, as everything goes, especially in the indie publishing space, we have to upfront the cost of the copies of books and everything, and it's for some authors, it's one of those baby steps. Is how much can you afford, and then can you make the table back and earn profit? And you're always trying to earn a little bit more so you can put it back in to get bigger and bigger. And it's a game. It's a strategy game. So for us out here,
constantly thinking about it. Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've ever listened to any of these chats before. How I usually do this is if anybody in the chat pops up with a bookish related comment or question, I'll try to make note of those, because if this platform's nice, usually it is, sometimes it's not. I'll try to repurpose this on my YouTube channel and put all your contact information down below so people can continue to find you going forward. But with that said,
awesome.
Since you're my co-host tonight, I'll let you introduce yourself and what you write.
Yeah, my name is S.M. Birdwell, or Seth. I write fantasy in the young adult category right now. Obviously, when I finish my initial series, I do want to branch out into other places. But right now, I'm in that kind of upper middle grade YA fantasy. My particular series is Portal Fantasy and long. I mean, that's what I grew up reading, but at its core, just almost classic fantasy. That's where I'm living right now, and that's probably where I'll be living for the next couple years.
Well, I was looking at your t-shirt, so that whole classic fantasy vibe going on. So that makes sense.
So I'm so cliche. when it comes to the fantasy that I love, but I love it. But yeah, That's the world. That's what I write in. I do want to branch out. There are all kinds of other genres I'd love to write in. Sci-fi is a dream. I'd love to get into that world. But yeah, if it is anything that fits that kind of classic epic fantasy world, that's where I live.
I love that. I was going to say, I've seen a little bit of a resurgence with authors who are catering their books in that kind of classical fantasy style. And I think a lot of people love it because it's nostalgic. It's a little more friendly to a wider group of audience because you could be, a YA reader a lot of times. You could be an adult and still love that kind of big, sweeping classic vibes. Obviously, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and Tolkien kind of stuff is a quintessential one there. But I have seen a lot of people just enjoy that particular subgenre.
I think there's a little bit. I think it's timeless because it's proven that it has legs. It's one that's been around for a while. I think genres are cyclical, So what's super popular right now, even if it begins to fade, I think in 10 years it's going to pop right back up. Classic fantasy, I found, seems to be that stream that kind of runs through it. Now, that was not my intent. I did not write in that world because of that streamline. I wrote in that world because really that was all I knew at the time when I started writing. But it has those legs, and nostalgia will never go away, which is really funny. So anytime, and the way that I tend to kind of pitch my books are normally it's for new readers, but then it's also for older readers to feel like a kid again. And all of us had that. I think I've seen recently, I'd say in the last year, this like Redwall resurgence, the series with the Mouse Warriors and everything. I didn't really know what that series was. So all of a sudden I start hearing about it. I look at it and it was absolutely prolific in certain areas. And here it makes kind of this resurgence in this particular genre. So for me, it's one of those ones that it feels like it will always have a spot somewhere. Because you always have new readers. You always have new people that are going to want to dive into something. And so there's a timeless quality to it. And like I said, I did not write that thinking about all of that. I just wrote it because it was what I knew. But it does make me happy, though, like in the sense of okay, 10 years from now, I actually think I'm still going to be able to push this book series that I wrote, and it would still fit within a subgenre there.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, when it's not even referencing the actual stories, if you just look at the TV and cinema, I mean, fantasy, there's a lot of resurgence of, again, the classical side with the branch offs and the prequels of Lord of the Rings and that world base. And then you also have that attempt at Wheel of Time and, again, these kind of big sweeping things that are bringing awareness to some of these stories, these characters, to people who may not have read them in their book form first, and getting to know them and getting to know those worlds. So it is fun.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit more about, again, you mentioned that you have this, you said, again, classic vibe, YA. I think you mentioned Portal aspect, and it perked my ears up because my YA is Isekai Portal Fantasy as well. But so I was just like, tell me more.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's really funny because the whole thing, tracks back. One of the first books that I remember reading, growing up, was A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. I'm talking all the way back to Mark Twain. And I read the little abridged versions, and then I read the full version. And that idea of taking something modern, taking anything, and then placing them in that's where my imagination went. So as I'm reading just all of these books, I was always in this world of, oh, how fun that would be. And then the movie is so terrible, but there's a kid in King Arthur's Court. It comes out, I think it was like 1994. So I showed it to my kids recently, and it's just, it's terrible. But I was reading that, and then there's this one is a little bit more obscure. It's called the Albion Song Trilogy. It's written by an author named Stephen Lawhead in the, I think, late 80s, early 90s. And it's about a young Oxford professor who goes through a thin space because it's all Celtic mythology. And he goes into this kind of Celtic fantastical world. And as I was reading that as a kid, I read that series over and over and over. So the idea of Portal Fantasy, I mean, it's ingrained. And so I always loved to write short stories and things like that. And about 15 years ago, I had a friend of mine really encourage me to write. He was like, you should just write this book. Here, do this idea. And it's the simplest idea. It is a modern day 14-year-old who goes into a fantasy world. Now that's it at its crux. So the catch is he is a modern day 14-year-old who is as obsessed as fantasy as I am, as you are, as people are. So he's seen the movies, he's played the video games, he even starts writing his own stories. So when he goes into this world, he begins to identify tropes and story structures and the movement of plot. Simple things like, hey, this is a time where there would be an ambush, and all of a sudden there's an ambush, because he's just recognizing that if I was in a book, this is how the story would unfold. And that means I playfully do break the fourth wall. As one of my readers has said, which is really, really funny, Jeffrey, that's my protagonist, the fourth wall fears Jeffrey. So, and that's kind of the story at its crux. So here he is, but then I also brought this really, it's a very low magic, almost medieval fantastical world. So it's not insane. It's not crazy. Now there are creatures, monsters, and all of that, but it has a lot of grounded realism in it. And Jeffrey, being 14, has to learn a lot about the realism of war and everything like that. So it has a streak of, I would say, heart and big character growth as he's kind of navigating this world where violence is currency, and he comes from a world where he's playing video games all the time. So a lot of that. So he partners with the princess and her stable boy. So it's kind of a trio there, and adventures ensue. That's kind of that idea. And it was funny, I didn't even know the word isekai until the last several years. I love animes and things like that, but I didn't realize that was an actual genre of one. And I was doing a book event, a little book fair here in where I live, and I was describing all of this, and someone goes, "So it's an isekai?" And I was like, "It's a what?" Yep. And then I looked it up. I was like, "Yes, that's exactly what it is. That's it. That's exactly what it is." But yeah, that's it. You know, and that's the catch. The catch is, as the story progresses, he becomes a royal advisor. He becomes a very trusted person, because they think to a degree he can tell the future. So his legend grows. So it's kind of a throw out of the chosen one. He's not the chosen one. He specifically has no skill set whatsoever, and yet he's still following kind of this pathway that's putting him into a really, really major player in this rebellion, in this war. And he is very sarcastic. He's sardonic. He's a really likable teen in a way, while also being classic teen, kind of a bit of a knucklehead and everything like that. It's fun. There's definitely there's a lot of humor, and I try to keep it lighthearted. As the story progresses and the stakes get higher, it does get more intense, but still maintaining some of its fun. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's 100% born out of everything I just said. I don't think I could have written my first book and it not be a portal fantasy with how influential those were to me growing up.
Well, that is the fun thing, is like finding out the behind the scenes of what inspired the stories. And my YA series was kind of like that growing up in the 90s. There's a lot of 90s influence from anything, from books like, for me, one of the big portal fantasy books I grew up with was Pendragon.
Oh, and love Pendragon.
Yeah, Pendragon, and then Stargate SG-1 and that kind of stuff influenced like the portal aspect. And then I have everything from Yu-Gi-Oh! And the card games have like references of their, influence in one book, and Dragonheart and all these kind of things. So it's Jackie Chan adventures if you really want to go just so obscure.
No, I'm there. I love them. I watched them. Yep. Oh yeah.
Yep. So all that kind of stuff was a lot of fun, and seeing how you can weave a story and create a story just based off your influences from even way back when. It is a lot. It's just fun to see. Oh yeah. The one most people in the mainstream, I think, mention when I really start talking about it, obviously, is Chronicles of Narnia. Mm-hmm. Which I weirdly,
I enjoyed it, but it didn't have like a major touch point in my life, weirdly enough. So a lot of people said that one, but it's funny you say Pendragon because I came to that one a little bit later, and I actually think that I think it should have a bigger following than it does. I put it up there with the Percy Jacksons, with those stories that are just pretty much, even Aragon, those prolific stories that are just kind of part of the psyche that we know. For me, I'm always like, man, I think Pendragon should have been up there.
I kind of agree. I was going to say, but I was heavily influenced by it. But yeah, it's amazing. How these stories of taking someone out of our world and put them into another have been around since pretty much like the beginning of fantasy. I mean, all the way back to, if you really think about it, Alice in Wonderland, that's another one. But and just how each different generation has kind of changed it, tweaked it, evolved it to whatever they need. But it is a lot of fun. You also mentioned that you were interested in sci-fi, which can do these kind of portal aspects or not. But what kind of sci-fi is something that you're looking into as that may be a fun jump next?
Yeah, I don't know, because then you have you have the sci-fi, it's obviously very popular, and the Red Rising series, which is this big space opera sort of thing which I think is brilliant. I think it deserves all of the hype that it gets. I've read them all, I love them all, but I love the way that it actually also still felt very fantastical. So there was that one. But then there's an indie author. It's a couple actually, L.K. Winter. It's a husband and wife couple. They wrote this book called The Mechanics Engineer, and it just made me feel like The Fifth Element, going back to the 90s, The Fifth Element, some of that sci-fi that really has something to say. It's going to be that 80s synth music, a little bit of Akira maybe, something in that world. So I don't know. I'm not, and this is, I say, I'm not smart enough to go heavy sci-fi. I don't carry enough of that information. So that high level of sci-fi is not something. It would definitely still have that adventure element to it, that futuristic thing. But then I do want to subvert the genre a little bit, and I think I would have to have major fantastical elements within it to kind of keep it fun and everything. So that's kind of it right now. But then
science fantasy.
Yeah, very much. Well, and then the dark horse in all of this, even in the fantasy and the sci-fi realm, is I'd love to try my hand in any one of those genres with the subgenre of horror. I want to see if I could write something in that realm. And if maybe not specific horror thrillers, just something with a tension that, my story now, it has its tense moments as it's supposed to. It's not a tense series. So I think this would be a thing I would want to challenge my own writing. So it's not necessarily I have this story in mind. It's I'd love to see what I can craft in this particular world. Not as extreme as Event Horizon, that's where my brain goes, but definitely something in that particular world. Dead Space, and again, it always goes back, playing Doom growing up as a kid and the little 8-bit sort of thing, but anything in that particular realm. So
that sounds like a lot of fun. Are you kind of already in the back of your mind working out storylines? Or are you still kind of keeping your predominant focus on your YA series until you wrap it up?
I'm probably, I don't do multiple works in progress very well.
Smart.
These people the people that know how to do it or are doing it well, it fries my brain. I can barely write and read at the same time once I'm really locked into one of those. So no, I have what I have, and my character actually has this too. My maladaptive daydreaming has not gone away in 43 years of life. I've always had it. So I have wisp of stories, wisp of ideas, and I might throw down a little journal entry or a little something, but no, I don't have an overarching idea of what I would want to do, because the series I'm writing right now, it has projected 4 more books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I'm writing them in arcs, and I had someone mention this, and it's the most accurate way. it's not like an anime, but I've structured it with arcs, kind of like, in Demon Slayer, your swordsmith arc, your all of that. So this first arc is the Atalan arc. I just wrapped it up, so it has a satisfactory ending with a lot of things still to come.
I love that.
And so then I have two more arcs that I want to rewrite with 2 books per arc to finish the entire overarching thing. That's going to take me, I mean, realistically, another couple of years, easy. So, and then I have some novella ideas in the midst of these that I'm kind of toying around with in the midst of this world. So I feel very comfortable. I mean, writing right now, I love it. It's a great hobby for me. It's a great release. So I don't feel the pressure of having to come up with a bunch of 1,000 other things. So I feel very comfortable.
That's a smart approach. I am doing everything but. I have way too many projects going on, and it can get very overwhelming very fast. So I say kudos to anybody who can just stay focused on one and stick through it. But the whole thing about the multiple arcs in a series, I've heard a few times recently that people are doing that, and even I'm one of the book series, because I read multiple at the same time. Also, don't ask. Mm-hmm. But one of them is Legend of Drizzt, and they structure them in arcs too. Yep. So hearing that and kind of having that light bulb click, one of the series I'm working on is going to be a progression light high fantasy, very D&D heavy, in vibes. But I'm going to do arcs with trilogies for that one because I like the idea where it can concentrate on 3.
Yep.
And then have enough feelers out there to then, if I want to, progress it to another 3 and another 3 and going from there. Because I think that would be a smart approach for a long time. Well,
and I'd love, it's fun sitting here acting like I had this all brilliantly mapped out, but I didn't. I have tripped and stumbled and rolled all through this indie author thing in the last year or so in the weirdest ways because I'm learning things late and everything. So that was not my original intent. And it's because the books that I have now, the trilogy, it's actually was originally written as a single book. It was a single book that I wrote. And I knew, I knew enough about the demographics and the genres. And this was back before I was even doing it indie, I was querying it out. And there is no middle grade agent and or publishing house that is going to touch a 600-page book. I mean, that's just ridiculous, right? There's no way in the world that is going to happen. And so I had tabled this for years. I mean, again, I wrote the first part of the book. I actually wrote the whole thing 14 years ago. So when I said, okay, I want to get into this indie publishing thing, and I realized it had really grown, and a lot of resources had been made available that I had not been aware of, I started looking at it. So I took the book and I shaved out a whole bunch of it, and I made book 1, and I kind of concentrated on that. And then I had most of a book 2 already done. I did a lot of work on that, and then I closed out the arc. It was in the midst of that I came to the conclusion. And then again, it's funny, Michael down there has mentioned the Demon Slayer. It was actually watching Demon Slayer with my son and how they do their arcs, how that manga did its arc.
Yeah, okay.
Which is not uncommon in the anime world. It's like you say, it's not uncommon. It's not, all of the different One Piece arcs and everything. And that's when I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to have this first arc and again, you're going to feel satisfied when you finished the trilogy, but there's a lot more to come. Now, I will say the downside of that, and I openly admit this, is it reads more like a singular story than each book having its own start, middle, end. Mm-hmm. So having that said, book 1 has, which I jokingly call it's not a cliffhanger. You've already fallen off the cliff. Like it pretty much just stops. And then book 2 picks up, and I love book 2 can feel like filler, not filler. I mean, it moves the story, but it moves it to that third book. So my downside here is it still reads like a singular book. You have to have all of them. And from a marketing perspective, that's not been awesome. I mean, you know.
Say, here's what you do. Here's what you do is, okay, that's funny. That's funny. I was for that too. But think of it like, for talking about classic fantasy, Lord of the Rings is technically not a trilogy. It is one book in 3 volumes. If you really want to get to the nitty gritty, when you explain it that way, people are like, oh, and you're like, well, that's what you're doing. It's one book almost in 3 volumes. It's just, when you're trying to print these jumbo-sized books, physically, printers struggle with that too. So sometimes it's just a book of 3 volumes.
Oh, I get it. I'm 100% there. I've even thought about that without the intensity. I have said before, like, oh yeah, the middle book is kind of like the Two Towers. You know, there's so much more. There's so many more things that have to be going on, but at least there's still some story there. So yeah, that's again, from a marketing perspective, it's been tricky. That's why I really pushed to get the second book out as quick as possible, because I knew how sharp of an ending that first one was. Which this is going to veer. Remember, Jeffrey is allowed to playfully break the fourth wall. Mm-hmm. In how he observes stories. And I have several places where Jeffrey's critique of what's happening are legitimate critiques that could be made about the actual book that he's a part of, which is very funny to me. I have a couple of moments, and I've had some readers in the third book reach out and really, really, really laugh, because they've been with me on TikTok for long enough to know that I've talked about these things. And they're kind of like, that was really clever. You're making fun of yourself in this particular book, which in turn then makes people forget that it's there as an actual critique, and they end up laughing about it. So it works out. Those
Deadpool references.
Very much. Yes, he's
turn to the camera and say your punchline.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to run any parents off like Deadpool will. Which actually, believe it or not, he playfully makes that exact joke also, about how he's still in this particular world where he needs to be careful what he says, which has also been a challenge as a writer, because there are some scenarios that call for some adult reactions that I have to taper down to a 14-year-old.
That is fair. That's the one thing is I've realized I'm still working on my YA series. Hopefully gearing up for the 6th book later on this year, but where I am from right now is I'm focusing on more of the adult side of fantasy, because it's freer for me to make the jokes I want to make get into situations I want to get into. Plus, I do tend to list darker when it's not my YA series, since I do a lot of battle scenes and scenarios and the grittier side. So it's a little freer for me from where I am and what I want to write. With that said, it's nice to have a YA series, because it's something I can offer. It's something that's just fresh and fun and whimsical and quirky, and it is neat. I have noticed, as an author of multiple age brackets, that can be hard to navigate.
Very hard.
With you talking about it, I know you have a few more years left in this series to try to get it to where you want to wrap up all the arcs, but it may be something, if you haven't started thinking about how do you want to approach marking what's next, because it will be different.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely wild. I mean, even that's been the part that's been, I mean, there's been fun to it, but also has been the most challenging, I think, and we all know this, is getting the book out you thought would be the hardest part, but then how are you marketing this particular one? So one of the challenges that I have, so, people ask my book, the perfect age, I guess, for my book is going to be a mature 11 and 12-year-old reader to like 18 years old, right? That's that. That is not who is perusing book talk. That's not who's perusing reels on Instagram looking for the next big read. That's not what any of this, they're not getting on subscriber lists. And I would almost not want them to, So what I have to do with this particular series is I have to strike the parents' fancy. I have to strike the teacher's fancy, the librarian's fancy, that nostalgic kick. Now I will say an area that I have been happy about is many of my adult readers that I've been able to pick up. Amy down there, her grandson is one of my big fans, and he is awesome.
I love that.
He's awesome. What they have said is they can't wait for their kid to get old enough to read this story.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been an area I've been trying to just sit in and say, okay, again, like I said earlier, I think that I've written a story that can still have legs, because 5 years from now, there's going to be just as many new 11 and 12th graders. I've kept all of my pop culture references and everything to a timeless spin. I don't use a lot of modern language. Any very, very little usage of like phones and things like that. But even that, it's not enough to where I have locked my story into a time. Yeah. There's enough wiggle room there to where this could have read in the mid 90s, the early 2000s, and in 2026 with a kid who's maybe not chronically online as much. Yeah. So it still kind of has that particular flow. So I also have presented at local schools. I get to do that a lot. I'm friends in my work with a lot of teachers and things. So I have gone and done presentations at schools. I'm in a couple of the media centers at schools here. So marketing has looked definitely different, because I'm trying to find people that are looking for something. I stay regularly on, the middle grade fantasy, YA fantasy hashtags and what people are looking for there. But it's tricky. And you said something about being afraid. There's a trickiness to it. And I've cracked the joke that when I'm done with this series, I'm going to write the grimmest grimdark book just to get it out of my brain so I can just kind of throw it out there. But yeah, that's been, I would say, it's not been a bad challenge, but it's definitely been interesting, as you watch all of these people, everyone is marketing in their own way. And I have to grab hold of the nostalgia of a reader to try to get to where maybe their kids will sit down and read this book with them. And I will tell you, it's been really fun getting to do that. But it has at times felt, challenging.
Yeah, so I was going to say, that's my weakest point series is my YA one, because a lot of my platforms cater to slightly, older audience, but and it is just a different challenge because, like you said, you have to kind of cater to the parents, grandparents, family members, friends of the family, teachers, as you mentioned, rather than, your target. And so certain platforms cater to certain age groups better. And it's a very different game. So anybody who's working on YA children's, middle grade, just be aware of that. If you are, we mentioned a little earlier, because I was talking about Dragon Con and everything, that some of these conventions, depending on where you are, that some of them have YA tracks where, just focus on that for, the parents, for the actual people of that age bracket that, you're going for. And it may be something to look into if you haven't done so, because you said Florida anymore.
That is a future. Yeah. And as, Addie Luhu down there is another one who's been reading it with her family, and it's been really neat getting that feedback. That is a future plan. Right now, this is still very much a hobby for me with all of the other dynamics I have in my life. I would love to go to these cons, and because I've actually talked to other YA authors who have had great success at these, because you do have a lot of people that are looking for something that they can read with their kids or hand to their kids or get their kids, and they're there and they still love books. And, but I'm also quick to say, especially as you get into the story a little bit more, it definitely does still carry appeal, I think, to adults. I don't talk about it a lot, but in my real life, I kind of work in a counseling sociological field. And so I'm able to write in, I think it catches people sometimes some subtle methods of walking through mental health stuff, dealing with grief, dealing with anxiety. and doing that in the lens of this portal fantasy and everything. So I definitely try to have that in there. So those that if an adult does sit down and read it, there's definitely some things that I think that they can latch onto and really enjoy in that particular regard. But to go to these live places is the dream. I've been doing that more and more. One of the things I did that's been helpful with the schools, though, and this is, again, you got to know where you're marketing. I actually have a teacher guide for the first book that I give to homeschool parents whenever if they ever ask for it, and I've geared it towards, some of the younger ones. Identify the adjective. How would you write this? Very simple stuff. And then I have some more stuff. Sentence breakdowns, critical thinking stuff, everything like that. So I actually wrote that about a year ago for the first book. So that's part of when I meet people in the real world. I'm not really pushed that a lot on here. Again, I haven't really found that space, but when I'm meeting with people in the real world and we get to talking about it, I can say, and I have a teacher's guide if you wanted to homeschool or teachers, and that has actually been really fun and helped out a lot as well.
I was going to say, as a person who was homeschooled, I appreciate stuff like that. That's pretty neat. So I never thought about that. But there's a lot you can do with that, because you're talking about that of like how you can prompt kids to think about handling, different kind of situations. If you're talking about kids with anxiety, how, just to do the grammar and this, story structure, depending if you want the literary side of things. And there's a lot you could do that. That's fascinating.
Oh yeah. I have a friend over on one of the other apps, and she homeschools, and one of the things that she said she really liked the book, and I gave her, and one of the things that she liked about it is Jeffrey's method of seeing story structure was helping her teach her kids story structure in their English literature class. The way he was identifying the tropes and stuff. So she actually took it herself. That was something she put in her review, that she felt like it was a neat story to be able to teach her kids how to make a story. And that was fun. That was not intended, but that was neat. So
hey, you never know how you're going to inspire someone else. So that's neat. I like that. I'm going to make that note about teacher guides. I've never.
Oh yeah, it's a neat thing to just kind of, and they're not overly complicated. They're not over just a little something to kind of help out. I get to interact with a co-op. About 150 homeschool kids, and they all have copies. They all have it. I've given that to all of them. So
that is great. That's my new thing to think about and put in the back burner. Not that I have enough projects.
No. Oh yeah. No.
But that is something I do want to think about, because there's some interesting things that I've seen recently of oh, if I had time, I want to do that. If I had time, I want to do a dyslexic friendly font variation of all my books and all that stuff. Yep. But I need the time.
No, I completely understand. I will say I did have help. I had a teacher friend after I was kind of writing it out that was willing to grab it and kind of look at it and help me shape that out a little bit. So I did not do that one all alone. I actually had a teacher, and she was actually the one that gave me the counsel to do it when I first released the first. Have you thought about teaching? And I actually, I have no idea even what that is. I can ascertain what it is. So yeah, it's just, and it's just another avenue.
I think we're breaking up.
It's not necessarily resulted in anything outside of my immediate community, but yeah.
That's pretty, I was going to say, fascinating stuff, things I've never thought of before, so that's pretty cool. So let me ask.
Yeah, especially in that middle grade way.
Oh yeah. Do you have an example of your books, your covers to show?
Hey, so I'm in Florida, and we are having a classic Florida thunderstorm, and it's making everything wonky. I didn't hear that last question.
Oh, that's fine. I was wondering if it was starting to break out a little bit, but I didn't know if you had an example of your book cover to show.
Oh, yeah. So I've got them right here. This is my first book, A Tall and Rising. This was designed by a personal friend of mine, and I actually he's a friend that's been around for graphic design and stuff like that, and he actually designed this before I even was doing anything with the book, just because he was a friend of mine and I was telling him about it, and he was just playing with it over time. So he designed this one, and I loved it for me because I do think it's a little different than the current. Right now, it's got warmer colors and everything, so partial to this one. But I will also felt was underaged here. He looks like a small 14-year-old to me, maybe even like an 11 or 12-year-old. And that's so I'll get to that. So he also did this for here, and this one was hand drawn by my son, and then was all filled out by my same friend who did the Procreate. My son is he's 19. He is an astoundingly good artist that I cannot for the life of me get to do things, but that's another story for another day. But so this is the second one, and this represents one of the lands that he goes before. So then my friend who was doing this had his first baby on the way and work, so he was not able to do it. So I moved to Miblart, M-I-B-L-A, the Miblart cover company, for this third one here, Atalin Burns. And so each one obviously is the same idea. Jeffrey is staring into the unknown, but he also grows within his characterizations and everything like that. I have actually had Miblart redo the first two to match this one a little bit more, that I might do a special release of down the road just to have them. So that's why. So there's that. And then this is neat because I love to shout it out. My Reinhardt Chronicles logo there was done by fellow indie author Raven Penn, Blake and Raven Penn. They did the Dragonstone series, another YA series. They're fantastic. She designed my logo for me. And then a new addition that my editor suggested was at each beginning of the chapter, doing something that signifies the POV. So I had my son draw me all of those things. So little things like that. But those are the covers. So first two were done by a personal friend of mine, third one by Miblart, and then I'll probably stick with Miblart. They've been great. They've been very easy to work with. Really, really easy. And they'll probably do the rest of the series for me. The dream is to have my son, like I'd love for Jeffrey, along with his love for fantasy, to be able to, I see it in the Stormlight archives. So in each chapter you have the hand-drawn sketches that Shaylin does, and it's just like almost journal entries, but they're sketched. I want Jeffrey to have sketched journal entries all through the book that my son draws, and I just need to convince him to do it. So, but that's the dream.
If you say you're going to have like either alternative covers or special covers, like if you add those into special editions, it will perk people up and be like, wait, you have what added? I love that.
Oh, I know. And I should pull, man, that is, he drew some of the things that he has drawn even already for the book. I mean, he's one of those people that's just almost want to do it sort of thing. But yeah, so he has done that, and so that's the dream. But yeah, so real simple, and then I put them together on Canva from there, and yeah, so those are the covers.
I love that. I always love when people can show off their pretty books, because we all love pretty books. But
yes, absolutely.
And let me ask you.
Yeah, well, and
is starting to run by, and this is a great time because we're 3/4 the way through, where I ask my regular questions, and one of which is, What formats are your books available in? I saw the paperbacks, and where can people get them?
Yeah. So because it's all still just a hobby, I have done it the easiest way. They're available, and I don't know if they're on the Zon. They're all available there, and you can get it on ebook, free on KU, paperback, and hardcover. Those are the where you can get those on the Zon, and then you can direct these through me, through my link tree in my bio. And signed copies, obviously, I sign them, I'll personalize them, and they come in a book wrap with little goodies, with bookmarks, postcards, various little things that I've had. I've had some stickers made, and just personalizing it just a little bit. So you can get those directly from me, and that's it. Obviously, I want to branch out into all of the other various areas, but and right now, that is the easiest place to keep them available and not have to kind of keep up with a bunch of stuff. So those are the places you can get them right now.
Hey, that's how I started too. Is exactly as you said, was Zon first, and then I've since then tried to started expanding in different routes and everything. But especially like you only have so much time in a day. And if your time is spent trying to figure out new platforms and distribution services or writing books, surprisingly, it may shock you, but readers would prefer you to write the books so they can read the books and they will find where you're selling them.
I know. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, very much, very much. So I've been pleasantly surprised. I know we all have our wrestling matches with the various areas in which we can get our books out to everyone. I've been fortunate so far that to have a pretty easy process with that. That's not been incredibly stressful. Going into all the other areas, that feels like a lot of work. I've joked. I was like, I've only sold just a few books, but man, I could use a PA, couldn't we all, right?
Yeah, no, there've been moments in time where I did get someone to help me through this kind of thing or that kind of thing. For instance, there was one point where I wanted to restructure and add new socials and had someone come in and help me figure all that out because that was a lot to set up.
Yeah.
But, again, what you can afford, what you can handle, what you need at different stages of your career as a writer changes. So right now I'm kind of solo dolo, but man, it would be nice again if I could get to the point where I could have someone be like, help do just some of the basic stuff would be nice. Oh, yeah. And then I can concentrate on some of the other things.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I've joked, I've got a couple, in fact, a few of them are here, like Ezekiel Eversand down there. I'm actually currently reading his book right now. Excellent indie author. He's actually one of the best that I've ever read. And I don't mean that because he's here. He's really that good. But we talk a lot, and I'm older. I'm not old, but I'm definitely older. And so there's a lot of these things that I actually don't know if I have the time to even learn how to do. I've officially hit that place. We were having a conversation the other day, and it was like, hey, I know Canva's supposed to be easy, but you reach a certain age where these things aren't as easy anymore. And those are the little things I think that stress me out just a little bit, is all of these various things. People will tag me in a trend, and they will you're going to get a DM from me immediately that says, I don't know how to do the trend. I don't know how to make the video. I don't even know what to do. Like, I'd love to do this trend, but I don't know what to do. So that's been tricky because I don't want to spend a ton of time learning that, because I need that time, that very finite amount of time to write. So I've kind of leaned into, you know what? Put your head down for a few years, build a little bit of a following and create relationships and friends and a community. Put your head down, get your first series out, and then kind of breathe after that. So. Oh yeah.
And that's the thing is you have to figure out what's best for you. And some people just stay, like what you're doing right now, the Zon, and that's totally fine. And they're very successful. Other people want to try different things. That's fine, but you don't have to do it all at once. Yeah. And I'm with you too. Like, anytime I try something new, I stress myself out so much. Yeah. But once I learn it, all of a sudden I'm like, why didn't I take the time? And then, you have to do the learning curve for whatever it is. But now I'm just like, why didn't I do that earlier? Why did I hesitate so much? But either way, it is stressful trying to learn something new. And yeah, it's one of the reasons why I haven't made a commitment to any particular group to distribute my physical copies wide, because I have a lot of my audio and ebooks are wide, but I just haven't made a commitment. So no, whatever one I use, I'll have to learn how to reformat what I have and probably go back and get the covers readjusted, because everybody does it a little differently, and that just is so overwhelming.
Big time. Big time. Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you, outside of Book Talk, are you on, I mean, you already mentioned yes, but like, what other socials are you on? Do you have a website, newsletter, that kind of thing? Because where else can people find and follow you?
Yeah, I'm on, and again, it's the same thing. It's still kind of in that hobby world. So I am on pretty much the same handle. I'm on Threads, which has been fun. I'm on Facebook, which is always funny to say because there's an untapped market on Facebook that I think a lot of people, I know everyone has various reasons. Maybe they don't want to go over there, but I've actually been able to get a pretty big reach there. I do not have an official website or a newsletter. I do want to develop that. And I have a couple of indie author friends who have offered to help when that time comes, but I mean, not to sound like the broken record, but right now with it still being in that hobby phase, that just doesn't feel like something I can really sit down and invest time into just yet.
That's totally
that is the desire though. But yeah, so TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Facebook. I stay pretty active on all four of those. And then would love, I will say I'm toying around with going on and moving over to YouTube also. You can do some longer form videos there. And so I'll probably get something up there. I'll probably focus a little bit more on book reviews over there. Cause that is a major part of what I like to do also. But yeah, those are the places right now.
Hey, I love repurposing videos. So anytime I do something like here, I make sure I share it around, including the YouTube shorts, and that's been picking up some interest that way. Just again, work smarter, not harder.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, the people, the personal friends I have that follow me on like all of them, just as that support, they will crack the joke. They're like, I've seen the same video of you 4 times today. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, man.
Well, hey, that's surprisingly a rare percentage. Typically, that means you have some big fans that are looking out on all the stuff, which is fantastic.
Big time, absolutely.
Okay, making bad puns. Anywho, outside of your main character, because I actually want to talk a little bit more about your story, but outside of your main character, who is like your next favorite character?
Man, there's a little of me in all of the characters. There really is. A fan favorite is it's a second POV, a character named Tristan, who actually is a bad guy. And then you just got to read the story. I've joked, he is part of my release to be able to write an adult story in the midst of this YA story. I mean, it's an appropriate adult story, but you know what I mean. He is easily fan favorite, and the journey he's on, the destiny he finds himself on, that eventually collides with the main story with Jeffrey. He is huge, and a lot of people like him, but it's got to be this character his name is Rook, and he is Doc Holliday meets Jack Sparrow meets Mad Mardigan from Willow. Like he is that unhinged character, and I love writing him because he can do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to have any motivation. He doesn't have to have any. Now, obviously, he has some things that are deeper. He has some things that make his character actually. In fact, by the third book, a lot of people were really surprised at how emotional they became with him, because he doesn't have that quality that you're really drawn to him. You just know this guy is easy, as Anissa said down there. He is absolutely bonkers. he's so much fun to write. So I would say he was one of my favorites to write. Because again, he didn't have to have any rules. He had no social conventions. He has no loyalty to anyone but himself. That, I mean, at least as it seems to be. So very fun, very freeing to write. I would say I do enjoy, there's a character, the stable boy. His name is Jerob. He starts out as kind of the comic relief in the first book, and his story does shift. The character I wish that I would have spent more time with and will get more time in the arcs is the Princess Kalima. In fact, Jeffrey often says Kalima is actually the main character of the story. But I don't know. It's that age old. I really do love little pieces of each one of the characters. But yeah, I would say at its core, it's hard to not say Rook is easily one of the more likable characters.
I love finding out like what becomes a fan favorite, because it is surprising sometimes that authors will be like, oh, obviously it's going to be this person or that character or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's out of left wing and it's like, no, actually everybody likes this one over here.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. Well, or I like being surprised when you have the characters that you're like, they are going to be the favorite. You know, people are going to be drawn to them. And then someone comes in and drops one. Like I one of my absolute favorite characters, I really can't even talk about that much because it does kind of get into a spoiler territory, an early spoiler territory. And the reason that she's my favorite is because she has a literal complete world in my head. So it's not even what's on the page. It's like she was the most fully realized character in this moment. And so yeah, but it's been fun. It's been fun. The villains don't really show. I mean, they're there. They don't really have much of a presence until the third book, and that's another area that might be a little bit of a flaw. Like I said, they're there. They kind of sit over the top of it. They don't really become true villains until, as far as being regularly there, until the third book. I've enjoyed writing them. Again, the thing about villains is you can very easily get into spoiler territory once you really start talking about motivations and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a menagerie of eccentric characters. I do have one character that ends up being a dark horse. Have you ever had a character that you wrote into a book and you didn't think that you thought it would be a one-off? Yes. And all of your readers start asking you questions about that character, and then you realize, oh no, I have to have more of this character.
I've had a character where I wrote him, and this was my first series, I wrote him into existence literally to take my POV character, point A to point B. That was it. 4 books later, toward the end of the climactic, it was like the light bulb was like, oh, this is why you became so big throughout the whole series. I needed you for this moment. Yep. And I was just like, well, that was...
Oh, yeah. So that's almost exactly this character. So if anyone... The character's name is Stormare. And when he was introduced, he was introduced in a way that was the point. The point was to get him here to here. Mm-hmm. He has a very unique way of communicating. And I thought that people would just move on. And I had more people say, I can't wait to hear more about Stormare. And I really was like, because I don't call it a pantser. I think I call it a flow writer. I prefer a chaos writer. I'm not a plotter at all, but, and I was kind of like, oh no, I need to come up with something. And I did, and I really enjoyed it. But then I also had to continue to use his unique dialect to talk. And again, if you get into the story, it almost makes sense. You're like, oh my goodness, you sat down and had to write this. His sections took me hours to write. Oh my goodness. Thesauruses, dictionaries, Google searches, hours to write. I'm very proud of him, but I was like, every time I sat down to write his sections, I was like, I can't believe people like this guy so much.
You're more like, why?
I was like, let him move on. Yeah, let him move on. So.
That's hysterical. I love that. Well, since we're right at the end of the hour, I'm going to ask a question. This goes for everybody listening as well as for you. Is there anything you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about, or any question you wanted to ask that you haven't had a chance to ask? Because we have a few more minutes and I want to make sure we cover everything you wanted to cover.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have. I enjoy talking about it, but it's also kind of weird talking about something that you've created in this regard. So I want to do more, I think, of this. But I was noticing, and I mentioned this in the mess, you've been doing this for, at least 2016 was what the published date was on the first book.
My 10-year anniversary for my debut book.
Okay, yeah. So, just real quick. So, what would be the thing that you would say to the person that's in the first year? Just in general, just because you've seen changes of marketing and everything like that. Like, what would be that thing, that piece of advice that just kind of sits right there at the front?
Well, I guess twofold answer to that one is, one, even if you haven't published your book, one smart thing is always pick a platform or two that you feel like you'll be comfortable on and start just talking about the writing journey and start getting your face out there. Or if you're trying to be faceless, that's a little harder nowadays, but start building a buzz of who you are and that you're here. And so by the time you publish, you already have people, supporters waiting in their wings. I wish I did that. I wish I knew that. I didn't start social media marketing until like a year after I published the book.
Right.
Because I do everything the wrong way. Anywho, so that one I would definitely say. But the other thing is, I was going to say, figure out, once you start having your book, some fun ways to talk about your book. And you can take a little bit of moment and say, here's a list of your tropes. Here's a list of this. Here's some comps. And practice coming up with some little quick sentence pitches. Because when you have that as your repertoire, you can use them and reuse them over again to talk about your book. And even have a QR code, a little code of here's my cheat sheet of how did I get used to doing that, because you'll have people come up and ask you off the fly, oh, you write something, what's your book about? And you'll go cross-eyed being like, I wrote a X many page book. How can I tell you about it in a sentence or two? So practicing those things early on will help, because I still am terrible about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. That's definitely good. I think, and that's it. I think, you do. It is funny how you get the deer in the headlights when people ask you, but then it's also, I think a lot of it sometimes for me is also, it is particularly weird to say, hey, I did a thing and I think it's good. Mm-hmm. And I want to get your opinion on it. And then you're kind of like, it's a piece of yourself a little bit. Regardless, you really are putting it out there. And that's tricky. That's particularly tricky. I think that's a hump you got to get over. So I'm actually glad I did it older, because I really don't care. To be cringe is be free. I really don't care. My kids love that I'm doing this. Wife's super supportive. Everything. It's actually easy in that particular regard. I think it would have been harder for me years ago. I think when I cared a lot more about how people felt, but
also the more you write and the more you have released books and stories out to the world, it, like you said, it does get a little easier because you get used to it. But for anybody who's new, and it doesn't matter how confident you are, there is that moment where you have that fear of how people will react to what you've spent your heart in, your blood, sweat, and tears, so to say. This is your passion. This is what you have dedicated so much of yourself in. And the first time you get a negative comment, review, whatever, it can be heart-wrenching, and it's one of those things. Everybody is going to get one. Most of us are going to get a number of them, because that's just the way life is.
Yeah, mine was to my face. Mine was to my face. It was a friend who read it, and I was, oh my goodness, you read my book. Thank you so much. And then I walked into it. I actually don't even do this anymore. What did you think is what I said. And they go, it was okay. And I was like one of the very first pieces of live feedback I ever got.
Oh, no.
And I was like, again, I'm kind of old enough to be like, oh man, that was kind of wild. Mm-hmm. So, geez. But I do like hanging on to the idea. And there's been a few in the comments. I really do feel, since I'm still in that hobby world, if a young one grabs hold of it and loves reading, And if someone gets a taste of something they used to feel when they were younger, that really is satisfactory. Like that really is a place that I feel super glad to be a part of that journey. So,
well, you should be, because again, you never know what book, what story, what moment in time is going to be so influential to someone else. So you never know.
That's right.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me this tonight and this past hour, and getting to know you and what you write. And yeah, I've just enjoyed chatting with you. I did want to make sure I asked, I know you said you were getting into events. Do you have any releases or events or anything of note you want people to remember?
No, the third book's out right now, so it's all just, getting that through that regard. I've got a few that I've eyeballed, a couple local ones that I want to try to do, because kind of like we were talking about early, I want to figure out a system before I just dive into something that's kind of large. But then also time and everything, it might not happen in that regard. So no, right now it's just those daily trucking it along, hoping that the book that's out grabs hold of somebody. So
we love that. And I am sure it will continue to grab hold, and the whole series will continue to grab hold of people. But yeah, it's that never-ending process. We're going to write a book, and then for the rest of your life, you're going to be talking about
the rest of your life. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Par for the course. Anywho, but yes, thank you so much, Seth, for coming out and hanging out. And I do appreciate it. And I will let you know if and when I'll be able to repurpose this on my YouTube channel, put all your contact information down below, if that is the case. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your week. And everybody else, thank you for hanging out.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. And happy reading, everyone.
See y'all.
Bye.